The Marvel Cinematic Universe has delivered over 15 years of great, well, mostly great TV shows and movies. But believe me when I say no project is perfect.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
And there have been plenty of scenes that just make you want to squirm in your seat. So let's go ahead and dive right into my picks for the top 10 most cringiest scenes in MCU history. Before I get started, I want you to join me in the comment section down below and tell me what your pick would be for the most cringiest scene in the MCU. Personally, I can't wait to see what y'all come up with. Now, first up, of course, I want to give some honorable mentions. Believe me, there's plenty of cringe to go around. With my first honorable mention, I want to give that honor to Shuri saying,
"The real question is, what are those?"
As we'll see with the future additions in my list, most of the time when a studio tries to add a trending line that was really popular at the time, it ends up aging like milk. In the grand scheme of things, it's fairly less glaring, especially considering what's about to come, but I still cringed when I saw this scene in the theater, and I still do every time I watch Black Panther to this day. My second honorable mention goes to the entirety of She-Hulk. Wait, I can do that? Every single attempt at humor in this show did absolutely nothing for me whatsoever. I don't think I laughed in this TV show a single time. And in Marvel's attempt to add fourth wall breaks to poke fun at themselves and the audience, in general just left me wincing at every time they tried to be funny in this show.
Steve Rogers is not a virgin.
Captain America!
Shut up! Shut up!
But now, the moment you've been waiting for. Coming in at number 10 on my list, I have Smart Hulk dabbing in Avengers Endgame. What made this scene feel even more weird was that we didn't see the resolved conflict between Banner and the Hulk, and instead we're just told that they worked out all their differences off screen.
I put the brains and the brawn together, and now look at me. Best of both worlds.
So not only are we, the audience, experiencing this sudden change from a character that we've known for a decade, we also go from this to that.
Damn.
Really? Personally, this may be asking too much, but maybe we could have cut out almost all of this scene and instead had flashbacks to Bruce Banner and the Hulk having to work together after the events of Infinity War, so we could see more of the struggle and how they eventually came together. To be honest, even then it still wouldn't have been much, but at least it would somewhat fill in the gap. At number 9, I have Jane Foster trying to come up with a catchphrase in Thor: Love and Thunder. This entire movie felt like it was written by a bunch of 8-year-olds with crayon, and this scene encapsulates that accurately. After Jane receives the powers of Thor and becomes Mighty Thor, she brainstorms ideas for her catchphrase along with Thor and the rest of the gang. Because every superhero needs a catchphrase, right? Not only does this scene drag on for far too long, but the heroes are just standing around goofing off when not 10 minutes ago in the movie, Asgard's children had been captured by Gore the God Butcher. You'd think they'd be showing some urgency, right? Nah. And since we sacrificed the seriousness of the situation to have humor, the humor doesn't even land, which makes it even worse.
Well then, if it's color we need, let's bring the rainbow.
Bring the rainbow, is that a catchphrase or something?
She's only been a Thor for a minute.
How many catchphrases have there been?
A lot.
Yep, jump the gun.
Are you thinking what I think you're thinking?
I'm thinking it.
What are we thinking?
Thinking what? Thinking it too.
Omnipotency.
It felt like Taika Waititi tried too hard to recreate the humor from Thor Ragnarok, and instead of catching lightning in a bottle twice, it ended up just turning all of the characters in this movie to a parody of themselves. And the more they tried to make this scene drag on, it left me in my chair just going, oh my gosh, can we just get over this and move on to the next scene? Man, I miss Infinity War Thor. You never know what you got till it's gone. Baby, come back. At number 8, I have Fat Thor from Avengers Endgame. But hold up, it's not what you think. I actually think the idea of Thor dealing with his trauma and PTSD in this dramatic way is pretty interesting. Joel and Anthony Russo, who are the directors of Endgame, also made it very clear that this version of Thor was a representation of grief and depression, which was a bold move. The problem, however, was the execution. Thor is teased mercilessly by the other Avengers, and this really dampens the true message behind Thor's actions that the directors wanted to convey. Chris Hemsworth does an amazing job playing a tortured soul in Avengers Endgame. This is when the Avengers should be rallying around him, but instead they take almost any opportunity to belittle him. And there's no better example of this than Rhodey's backhanded comment further into the movie.
What do you think is coursing through my veins right now?
Cheese whiz?
Come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
The normally well-paced and quippy jokes that the MCU is known for didn't quite make sense in this moment. Thor is rapidly declining when it comes to his mental health, and he's desperately trying to hold on to something. But instead of rallying besides him, like I mentioned earlier, they take this moment to crack yet another joke. It makes you really feel bad for Thor, and you sit there instead of chuckling going, Oh, are you sure that was the right decision? At the end of the day, I just thought it was incredibly mean-spirited. And it's probably not a great message to kids who are watching about how to support your friend who might be in need. At number 7, I have Peter Parker's undressing scene in Spider-Man Far From Home. Ooh. All I gotta do to describe this scene is that it's a 30-year-old woman who is telling Peter Parker, who is an underage 16-year-old, to take off his clothes. Need I say more?
I'm Peter Parker.
Take off your clothes.
Embarrassing.
Now, hurry up.
Weird.
This scene was supposed to elicit some laughs from the audience and potentially create some further drama between Peter and the boy who's interested in MJ. But there's so many way better and, to be honest, less pervy ways to get a laugh out of the audience and manufacture tension. The fact that the seamstress just stares at Peter as he changes without any privacy, just nah. And also, I gotta say it, if the roles were reversed and it was an older man telling an underage girl to take her clothes off, there would be a national outcry, right? And I'm pretty sure the entire movie would get canceled. So you add that double standard with an already creepy premise, and you have the makings of an absolutely cringe-worthy scene that, in its attempt to make a humorous scene, just made the entire moment feel incredibly weird. At number 6, I have Cassie Lang and MODOK's interaction in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Trust me, there were plenty of cringy scenes in this movie to pick from, and it was really hard to select just one.
Wow, this is garbage. You actually like this?
I settled specifically on the interaction in the finale, where MODOK is defeated by Cassie, and he immediately begins questioning his purpose, to which Cassie says,
I don't know, just don't be a dick.
I'm such a dick.
Never too late to stop being a dick.
This needs to stop. Now.
Everything about this scene just feels off. Whether it's the completely flat line delivery of Catherine Newton, the very fake looking green screen in the background, or how about just the actual script in its entirety? And the fact that this scene somehow inspires MODOK to save the day soon afterwards just didn't work for me at all. When used correctly, MODOK can be a perfect mix of goofy and terrifying. And to see proof of that, all you have to do is take a peek at the Avengers game, which had a plenty number of flaws, don't get me wrong, but I think they did the character of MODOK in an incredible way. But yeah, coming back to this movie, having him ask Cassie what he needed to be just felt stupid. When I saw the scene in theaters, all I could do was just facepalm and go. At number 5, I have Steve and Sharon's kiss from Captain America: Civil War. On the surface, this interaction shouldn't be that big of a deal. Steve had just endured the death of Peggy Carter, who was the love of his life, and on top of that, he started to form a bond with Sharon in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which led into their stronger connection in Civil War. Yeah, their relationship together felt a little rushed, but hey, maybe Steve is able to use Sharon to help him overcome his grief and maybe potentially start a new relationship? Then the moment happens. They have a sweet moment, they kiss. Sam and Bucky are in the backseat of the car and they deliver some of the funniest lines in the movie.
Can you move your seat up? No.
But then you watch it knowing what I know, and then you're like,
Oh! Oh! Oh!
Because then you remember, Sharon Carter is Peggy Carter's niece. That alone makes the whole kiss scene feel so weird. But coming back to this movie after Endgame came out, it makes it even worse. Cause Steve at the end of Endgame travels back in time and finally gets to marry Peggy Carter, so technically that means he made out with his own niece. Even if the whole timeline thing probably changed after Steve married Peggy, that doesn't change the fact that Steve and Sharon's scene in Civil War just gets worse the more you watch it and the more you really think about how weird that is. At number 4, I have Nick Fury losing his eye in Captain Marvel. For years, we wondered and speculated how Fury could have lost his eye. Was it on a mission? Was it betrayal? We didn't know. Then in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, we get further hints towards what could have happened.
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. It's called compartmentalization. Nobody spills the secrets because nobody knows them all.
Well, not only does this plot point get resolved in an incredibly lame way, but it's also played for laughs, which fails miserably in my opinion. He loses his eye from getting scratched by a cat. Technically a flurkin, but a cat. The way it happens is so unceremonious and feels like a total letdown. And it makes you think, if Fury said the last time he trusted somebody he lost an eye, does that mean he's trusted nobody in 20 plus years since the cat?
Right.
I remember when I saw Captain Marvel in theaters, there was a lot of groans from the audience when this scene happened. And in my opinion, that just added to the entire scene just feeling cringy as heck. At number 3, I have the ice cream song from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I know the kids are adorable. I know there's some high emotional stakes with MCU Wanda being reunited with her boys, but the question still remains, did I squirm in my seat when this scene happened?
You bet your sweet bippy I did.
Even if it was meant to be just kids being kids, it doesn't change the fact that it belongs on this list. Go ahead and tell me in the comments how cold and heartless I am. I can take it, but I said what I said, and I got a list to wrap up. At number 2, I have the ladies team up scene from Avengers Endgame. Going into this scene, the final battle had everything you could have possibly asked from it. I don't even need to describe how incredible it was to see all of our heroes teaming up together to face off against Thanos and his army. But then midway through the fight, we all of a sudden grind the entire pacing of this fight down to a halt, all with just one specific scene.
Don't worry.
She's got help.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Me? Just hanging around.
But before you say,
Oh, we had Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man fight against Thanos, and they were all dudes. So what's the difference?
and to that I would say, well, they were already pretty close together when Thanos attacked, so it made sense that they would all team up together with other members of the Avengers being down for the count. So that actually made logical sense. The female team up, on the other hand, just felt pandering. Hear me out, it's not the characters themselves that are the problem, but it's things like, why is Gamora with the girl team when she isn't even the Gamora that knows who they are or the Gamora that we know and love? Why the heck would she be there? And that's just one of the several questions that just make no sense for this team up. I think what made it worse for me was when the directors confirmed later that they kind of threw logic aside to just have a girl boss moment. I do believe representation is a great thing when created organically and serves the plot or characters well. But just like everything else, you can't just put a bunch of check marks together in one scene and expect it to feel coherent. And instead, with this scene as an example, it felt cheap, pandering, and completely isolated from the whole rest of the movie. And that's why no matter how many times I watch Avengers Endgame, this scene continuously just makes me roll my eyes and cringe like nobody's business. And finally, at number 1, could I just say all of Phase 4?
No.
No? I gotta pick one?
Yep.
All right. If you say so. I guess I gotta go with Monica Rambeau talking to Wanda in the season finale of WandaVision. Now here's a perfect example of what not to do if you're trying to have a hero display some villain tendencies. The MCU has loved creating villains that have redemptive qualities recently, specifically in Phase 4. So in WandaVision, we spend pretty much the entire season witnessing Wanda enslave an entire town just so she can play house with her imagination. It gets even worse in the finale, where Wanda clings to her fantasy by torturing all of the innocent town people, while they just beg her to kill them.
You let us sleep. We have your nightmares.
If you won't let us go, just let us die.
This scene by itself is not bad, especially since we're building towards the future of Wanda's villainy in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. But what undoes this scene in its entirety, and what makes one of the most cringiest and worst lines of dialogue in MCU history, is when Monica Rambeau turns to Wanda and says,
They'll never know what you sacrificed for them.
huh? She's just acting like Wanda didn't just violate a whole bunch of human rights, the Geneva Convention, or any other type of code of ethics that are out there. She's implying that the townspeople will never know the good things that Wanda did for them. It's like a desperate attempt for the Marvel writers to give Scarlet Witch a free pass for all the heinous acts that she did, all because she felt bad and she's sorry. This is just one specific example of how the Marvel writers are just downright scared of stakes and consequences for their heroes. You just can't have a flawed hero anymore who makes terrible mistakes and has to work through the consequences that come after those mistakes. It's not like that makes your character better, right? What happened to the nuance? This scene is just head scratching, baffling, and easily one of the worst lines of dialogue in the MCU as a whole. But now that I've given you my picks, I want to hear yours. Which scene in the MCU made you feel the most uncomfortable? And which one just made you kind of wince in your seat? Sound off in the comments below and let me know. I can't wait to hear what y'all come up with. Also, if you've been enjoying my content, please consider hitting that subscribe button and hitting the notifications bell so that you don't miss a single upload. The channel is currently getting closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm so excited for what's to come in the future of this channel. Honestly, words really can't describe how much all of your support has meant to me. But with all that out of the way, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.